Hello, everyone, and welcome back on Women Dialogues. And I'm your host, Shashi, with you all. Today in Women Dialogues, I'm having very inspiring, passionate, and dedicated to making their clients, especially women, to achieve success from Bossibly, New York, Amy and Michelle. And their clients call them superpowers. So they are bringing superpower to us in this show. And welcome, Amy and Michelle.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
So, before we start to talk about your company, please tell about yourself, Michelle and Amy.
Sure. Amy, you want to go first?
Sure. So Michelle and I are partners at this company we've started called Bossibly, and we are both really passionate about helping women treat their career like it's a business. So we just want to help women get out of their own way and really take control of their careers. And Michelle and I both have been doing this maybe on the side for a couple of decades each. And we decided, we're actually really good at this. We should probably do this as a full-time gig. And there's a lot of women who need help, who, who are just, they're taking job after job, but it's not really as empowering as it could be. And we really want to help change that.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. And how about you, Michelle?
So, as Amy mentioned, we've been coaching, helping, mentoring, solving problems for years. And we've naturally, people come and say, can you help me with this? Or can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? And so, even before this business was formed, both of us would have people say, I'm frustrated with my job and my boss is a jerk. I don't want to work here anymore. I want to quit. Or I'm not making enough money and my parents or my husband, my sisters all saying, just suck it up. It's fine. It'll get better eventually. And they're like, I don't like any of those answers. I don't like any of those answers. And could what would you do? I know you've advanced in your career. So what would you do? And so that we just really love helping women. I mean, we do work with men too, but women give away their power. And it's just so sad to see that. And that's where we're talking about the superpowers come in. It's identifying those strengths and not giving away that power. So that's where it starts, really.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's a really beautiful and inspiring introduction. Incredible job. So thank you both of us for joining us today. So tell us about how you started your company, what its purpose and work all about.
So it actually started when someone told me I was wasting my talents. I'm like, I thought I was doing pretty good here. I mean, I was making good money, had a great work-life integration, traveling all around the world. And they tapped me on the shoulder and said, no, you've got more to give. I'm like, come on, man, I'm pretty comfortable right here where I'm at. And there's two things that happened. So the first, and this all happened in the same week, right? Within days of one another. The first thing that happened was a former mentor 10 years prior had tapped me on the shoulder and said, Michelle, my daughter just graduated with her master's degree. She has a team that she's leading. She doesn't know what's going on. Something's going sideways. She's afraid that she might get fired or, would you help her? Would you help her, please? Because he goes, I can help her, but I'm her dad. And that's dangerous. That's going to go sideways in a hot minute. Right. So I said, Mike, I would be honored. I would be honored to work with her. So that was, and then 3 days later, this gal, Amy, contacts me, right? When she was working full time, she contacts me and she was working with women who were responsible for building. So Amy was a CEO. Amy, why don't you talk about it? I'm like tripping over myself. You talk about what you called
Yeah,
and said
yeah,
to
please.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the time, I was COO of an event marketing company, and we had a team of managers, young women, just really stepping into the leadership roles. And we were moving so fast paced. I was like, I really need to provide them some continuing support as far as, developing their leadership. And I said to Michelle, do you have something in the can, something we can use to help these gals? Because we're so focused on the mission of the company, but I'm dedicated to helping them grow as professionals. So
Right.
I pitched that to Michelle. I'm like, you got something? Like, can you help?
Right. And that's when I was like, this is a thing. I don't know what the thing is that kicked off a bunch of research, and that's how Bossibly was born. So
Wow. Wow. It's great work, and it's incredibly possibly and kind of
yeah,
superpower. I'm feeling really myself
yeah,
getting
that's
being
good.
within me.
You feeling the power? Are you feeling the power?
I can see
That's
that.
awesome.
I'm kind of getting possibly and superpower
Yeah,
feeling.
I love it. It's good.
Women, so what kind of challenges did you find while establishing your work? Because we usually feel like, as you mentioned, like initially we don't recognize our own power. We try to just feel we are in comfortable zone, like we are working, and that's I'm fine, I'm good enough. But as you started your own business, you started your own work, you established, so what kind of challenges?
So are you asking what challenges did we have when starting the business, or are you
Yes,
asking what
yes,
challenges do people
during you
have with
as
their work?
no, as you establish your business, as you establish your company, and we know it's not easy to become, while working and you have your comfortable job and salary, and you are comfortable, and you really don't want to recognize and push yourself more to become getting your superpower. But whereas you started your own business, you started your own company. So definitely there are lots of ups and downs and challenges we feel, and we go through by those. So, what kind of challenges did you find while establishing your work?
So there's so many different problems to solve,
Yeah.
right? And so there's what problems are we going to solve, right? How that would be the one thing, because it's so easy to chase after all these different things and help all these people with those different challenges.
Yeah.
So that narrowing that down over time has been instrumental for us to tell our story. So that would be the first thing that we found. And then I think the other thing is our differentiator, right? So what makes us different than someone else? I think that's huge too. Amy, you have anything you want to add?
And I think as we've evolved, we've gotten clearer about who we serve, and as we get more and more specific, then we have to be objective enough to say, okay, we have to start winding this down to make room for this core thing, and that's not always comfortable. So if you have a revenue stream that is consistent but not in line with where you're going, you have to make the hard call sometimes to say, I'm going to turn off that faucet so I can have room for this one that I know is right in line with where we're going. And it's scary. It's a little unnerving to let go of what you can do to make room for the stuff that is important and not certain. I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but that's part of the growing pains that we've been going through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally, understand and agree with this point. Initially, like you feel like, okay, you have a lot of revenues option and a lot of things, but finding your core and getting into them more and more is kind of challenging and hard sometimes. But I think over a period of time, it's rewarding, and it's courageous as well. Yeah.
It is for sure.
So as we all go ups and down, and you shared your challenges, so being a superpower woman, what was the strongest thought you carry while dealing with your all your these, as you said, like narrowing down your core and focusing on your core with your dull and negative movement? What was the thought you were carrying?
Can you repeat that for me? So I want to make sure
So
I answer that
I,
properly.
I I'm like, as we discussed about our challenges and your
Yes.
work challenges and all, but same time we have to find our strongest thought or maybe the point which can keep us pushing forward rather than feeling us dull or negative thought or negative moment. But what was the thought during those time?
Oh, so if I'm understanding the question properly,
Yeah.
it's what got us through that,
Yes. Yes.
and
Exactly.
how did we navigate those challenges? So
Mm-hmm.
Amy and I are doing a lot of work right now around limiting beliefs.
Hmm.
And so that it's, I want to pull this up. Let me see if I can find it. I'll try to find it fast. It's a really good quote, and that's why I want to pull it up.
Mm-hmm.
This was shared by a client, and it's not, so this isn't a good example of a limiting
Yeah.
belief. It's not who you are that holds you back.
Right.
It's who you think you're not.
Wow.
Let that sink in a minute, right?
It's
So
kind of
it's
very
not
deep,
who you
actually.
are that holds you back. It's who you think you're not.
Mhm.
And so, there's stuff that gets in the way in our own head, in our own heart, right? So we talk to women about, hopefully we show up as whole people,
Hmm.
and as a whole people, there's our physical selves, our emotional selves, our mental selves, and our spiritual selves, and that's a whole package.
Hmm.
So if we are not connecting those things together
Yeah.
and dealing with those limiting beliefs, like
Hmm.
we talked to a gal I think it was just this week, who said, am I brave enough? Ooh. The answer is yes. The answer is yes, you are, if you
Mm-hmm.
step into that power that you
Yeah.
have. And
Mm-hmm.
Amy, what are your thoughts on this topic?
I think the biggest thing that for ourselves as well as for the folks that we're working with is
Mm.
figuring out why. Like, what is it that you want?
Mm-hmm.
When you are clear about what you're trying to accomplish, it makes decision making so much easier. You're not
Mm.
just standing there at the coffee shop looking at a wall full of, ways to drink coffee, right? You're like, I know I want this, this, and this. And you go, and then you're freed up to do other stuff. So we coach people, and we have coaches, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you just need help.
Right.
And I think it's the clarity is probably the biggest contributor to getting through the uncomfortable parts,
Mm.
where you're like, oh, this is kind of uncomfortable. I don't know if yes, you can, because you know what you're working towards, and just do it. It could be little stuff like adopting technology you've never used before, or getting comfortable in front of a camera and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
talking to people that you don't know about stuff that you're passionate about, but you don't know if it's a good fit. I don't know. And just doing it anyway. Michelle uses this term imperfect action.
Mm-hmm.
It's the just lean in, do your best. You'll learn from it either way. It'll be fine. And as a former perfectionist, that's been a big opportunity area for me
Yep,
to
me
grow
too.
in this space. And yeah, it can be fun when you start leaning into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's beautiful way to explain it. Like finding your imperfectionist and go with that. It's not about the being perfect. That's beautiful, and I think that's very much important. But most of time we kind of especially I think as a women they have that all, but they are looking for being perfect, and they keep
mm-hmm.
procrastinating their those feelings, those power, as you are talking about. So that's beautiful. That's really wonderful. And And at the same time, how do you think this possibly can help many others who feel strong enough, as we are already talking about, they being imperfectionists, but still they don't know how they can deal with those negotiation strategies and all sort of.
Yeah. I think that we talk about the three C's a lot. So the first C Amy just covered as far as clarity. We work with gals that are either frustrated with their work right now, or they're lost. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to advance. They're unfulfilled or horribly bored. And they accept whatever comes their way. So they're frustrated enough to make a change, but they need clarity to understand, what do I want? Why do I want it? What do I want? And then that leads to the second C, which is the confidence. Once they have the clarity, they have the confidence to go after it, right?
Yeah.
And then they get conviction when they have a plan to execute, to say, yeah, I'm going to set the world on fire now. So that's, I mean, it's really fun to watch that happen and unfold.
Yeah.
I would just add to that.
Yeah.
The frustration often comes when people feel powerless. And part of the conversation that Michelle and I will have with folks is there are things within our control for all of us. And if we spend our time working hard, expecting people to notice and reward us, that's going to feel powerless.
Yep.
Regardless of what situation you're in, that's a life skill thing where people aren't just going to give you because you worked hard. Yeah, it's about figuring out what you want, articulating that, getting input, checking yourself. You know, am I reading this right? Is there anything I can do? If there's things you can do to set yourself up for success, those are the kind of conversations we have.
Yeah. That's powerful technique about triple C, or finding like your power and your voice. And I think the similar way this platform also try to build that same thing in audiences and all around, that these confidence, clarity, and all these triple C. I think it's very much aligned, and I love that triple C one.
Triple C, yeah.
Yeah. So do you think as a woman starting a business and running it constantly need some extra power or tips, like as a superpower we are talking about? So because many times women starts, but same time they have a lot of other pressures from different sides and they give up. So what kind of extra power or tips they should be having?
Well, I think so. This gets into, for us specifically, how we treat it is helping women be the boss of their career by treating it like a business. Amy mentioned that earlier. Well, what does that mean, right? So here's the thing. Most people, men and women included, spend more time researching how they're going to buy a car and working with the dealership than they actually do trying to find a new job or getting promoted or advancing their business. So the tips that we give are, you know, understand your gaps right now, understand your strengths, what's getting in the way, what can be superpowers. What are your superpowers? Do you know those? Do you have clarity? Do you understand your purpose? And then armed with that information, then you do your market research, right? So if somebody wants more money, do they know, like, so all of us, well, maybe not all of us want more money, but if most of us would like more money, but will the market bear that? Do they understand that their current position will command that? Have they set themselves up for the skills to get that, right? Coupled with getting 360-degree feedback from other people who are doing what they want to do to go after it. Amy, you want to pick up the rest of the steps?
Yeah.
Well, I also just want to acknowledge that, and this, might be a cultural thing, at least where I am, but I've met a lot of women who are reluctant to ask for more because they don't want to be seen in a negative light. I don't know. I don't encounter as many men who are nervous to inquire, hey, when I signed the contract that said it had a bonus, am I getting that? Like, when does that happen? Women won't ask. And it's little things like that that end up creating this salary delta between men and women, simply not speaking up. You know what I mean? And so once we've walked women through, figure out what you want, do the market research, get the feedback, spiffing up the professional image. So their resume, their LinkedIn profile, if they're in the kind of industry where they have a portfolio, that kind of thing. And then they go in armed with all this data and all this conviction on top of their confidence, right? So they can go in with a list of the stuff they have to have. And that varies per person, but it could be flexibility, it could be support, it could be a plan to progress, it could be a lot of things. And once they know what they want and they go in, if they don't get it, then that place, that boss has let them know, hey, good time for you to look elsewhere. And it's not something to take personally. It's this is my path. This isn't a stopping point. I'll go to the next one. And you could just feel how much more empowered. That's some superpower, right? We're going in like, I got a plan. I know what I want. I know what I'm worth. I think at the end of the day, that's what we want for people, to know what they're worth and to go advocate for themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is actually you are bringing a lot of point and about this negotiation and their regarding the salary, job, career path, and a lot of side things as well while they are designing their career path. So these are very important when we are talking about, especially as you mentioned about women, they just accept, or maybe. So what do you have something like any particular client story or something where do you feel those certain points are in common, or maybe what kind of reason they behind those?
Is this a good time, Amy, for Katie's story?
You know it is.
Okay. All right. I love telling this story. Do you want to tell it or do you want me to tell it? All right. So this is what we just described. Katie came to us pissed. She was pissed because she was passed over year over year, 3 years in a row for a promotion. Okay.
Oh.
Now, yeah, exactly. And she was passed over and dudes, there were 3 dudes each year that got this promotion that she wanted. Okay.
Right.
So she's ready to go in to the head guy and give him a piece of her mind. Right. And a friend of hers, she's talking about this to a friend, and her friend goes, not a good idea. You could get fired. And unless you want to get fired, you might not want to do that. So her friend gave us she gave Katie our contact information, and we started working with Katie. We took her through those steps that we were just mentioning.
Right.
And what Katie did was she then assessed her gaps. Why am I not getting the promotion? Right. What is happening? Is it tenure? Is it my leadership skills? What is going on? And she did the assessment herself. She then went to her boss and asked him to fill in any gaps, and then got permission from her boss to talk to her boss's boss, right?
Yeah.
Then did the same thing with her boss's boss's boss, right? So now she's talking to the head guy. She's in front of the head guy saying, this is what I want, and this is why I want it. And we encouraged her to ask these 3 questions. What should I start doing? What should I stop doing? And what should I continue doing?
Right.
And he goes, Katie, I don't want you to stop doing anything. Continue doing what you're doing. Right. But what I want you to start doing is I want you to get involved with this leader, and I want you to help be part of the communication with the local community because I think you have some talents and skills there. So she dug in there and she did that. Here's the thing. 4 months after she did that, she was then promoted to the next position, right? And now she, and she was the first female to be promoted into that position in 100 years of the organization's existence.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? I know. It's so cool. And now she's aiming for the next level up.
Yeah.
So that's what this does. That's what this does.
Yes. This is so empowering. It's really super powerful story which you bring it on this platform. I really feel like most of women they needed this kind of direction, or they need to dig into a little bit more about what's the reason why they have everything, but why they are not asking for, why they are not getting those things. And I think these kind of work which you are doing and creating to realize their power is really important.
It's cool.
It's great advice with full of superpower, actually. I can say
it's full of superpower. It's good stuff. It's really good stuff.
One more thing, as I always ask my all speaker, that why do you think a platform like this Women Dialogue is so important?
I'm going to let Amy take that.
Well, I think that, I'll speak for myself. I always thought I was the only one. I think we've all read about imposter syndrome and stuff. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, but I got it really bad. No. Okay. The truth is, a lot of us struggle with a lot of the same things. And there are answers out there if we just have the courage to start talking about it and be brave enough to start having the uncomfortable conversations. Be, advocating for ourselves. I'm more likely to help everyone around me than myself, has been my background. And that hasn't served me, because I can't continue to serve others unless I serve myself as well. So that's why I think that these kind of platforms are so important, just to remind us of what we already know, but to confirm that it's not just me.
Right. Yeah, that's great advice. And same time, it's very important to realize that what we are looking for exactly. And so before finishing our talk, what kind of last message would you like to give to our viewers? How they can develop, especially those women, their superpower and build their mental health, or any?
Well, I would say two things. If we're more than welcome to have a conversation. So they can find us on bossibly.com, bossibly.com. However, if they are not getting where they're wanting to go right now, those 3 questions are magical. Right. So the ones I mentioned, as far as what should I start doing? What should I stop doing? What should I continue doing? You can use that all over the place. Meaning, if you're a woman that is struggling with your boss, you can ask your boss that. If you're a woman struggling with a teammate, you can ask the team member that. If you're not sure how your client is doing, or how your client feels about you, you can ask your client that, right? So those 3 things are so simple to ask to get feedback. Amy, you want anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, mine's a little different. So what's been coming up for me lately is, who am I to complain? I feel like, the world's a mess and everything's okay. I'm fine. For goodness sake, you're allowed to feel fulfilled. So I would just encourage people to dream a little bit. Think about what ideal could look like.
Right.
And then just what's some small act of bravery you could do for yourself to get yourself one step closer to actually being joyful and happy and fulfilled and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's so good. And it is so important. I think it's not about women, it's about each and every one, because many times we forget these basic small things, and we keep rotating around, but we are not going into the core, which you touched
Mm,
us now.
mhm. I like how you said that. We're not going into the core, right? Not going deeper. We're not going deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Amy said,
And
I'm
uh,
okay. This is all
yeah.
right.
Yeah, it's actually, it's kind of your I'm still uh, into triple C movement. Still I'm seeing
Mm,
like clarity, confidence, and that's what it is all about, core, right?
yeah. Yeah.
That's so powerful. So good. So once again, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you for
Thank
having us.
you. Yeah, we
I'm
appreciate the
s-
invite
Thanks for
for
doing
sure.
this. Thanks for
thank
doing
you.
this.
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. And that's it for today's episode. And thank you so much, all viewers. And for more details, please check the description below. If you are looking to develop your superpower, and please find the details of Bossibly and get connected with Amy and Michelle. Those are description in the description box as well. Thank you.
Thank